I said this to you yesterday. I said people do not know that I am a stolen child at birth. That's something only my family is aware of. So my mom had me, and she was so sick. The day she had me, she went unconscious for like a couple of days or weeks, from what I understand. And I was in an incubator because I was born early. And the child next to me too was also a born early child in an incubator, but she wasn't looking good. And her mom was from the north, a Muslim woman. So I bet in this woman's mind, she's like, 2 babies in an incubator, who's going to pay attention? I might as well just run. So in her attempt to go, she knew the baby she wanted to take. So she grabbed me. Luckily, my aunt, my mom's elder sister, was coming back to take over shift from my dad that morning. My dad had left and she normally comes to stay with her sister. So she met the lady at the gate of the hospital. She's like, oh, you've discharged already. She's, my aunt is so inquisitive, like she's terrible. You would not miss her in a crowd. She just hugged the lady, grabbed the baby, said, oh, baby, say, yeah, baby. And then she went, what? If my aunt didn't spot her, my mom would never have known, because my mom didn't know me. My mom was unconscious. She did not know me. So this auntie always says to me, Chai, if you've been a know this now, if you wrap your head.
Deep conversations with the right people are priceless. Today on our podcast, What's Your Story? We have a transformation leader, Dorothy Akoh-Arrey. She is a transformation leader, data governance and strategic leads in the world of data and technology. She's also a registered movie director, talk show host, and a toastmaster. Her passion for community engagement is so strong that 14 years ago, she started a drive called Teach Me to Fish. We cannot take that from her. We just have to give her her flowers. We welcome her on this podcast today, and we beg her to share. Hello, Dorothy. How are you?
I'm incredible this morning, Ade. Thank you for having me on your platform, and thank you guys for taking the morning to be here. We appreciate.
Now tell me, to understand the strong woman that you are today, it is good for us to know your childhood. How was your childhood like?
It's always the one thing that gets me really emotional to talk about, because it was such a pivotal time of change in my life and in my family's life. And the only time that I recollect as a child understanding strife or pain or any sort of heartbreak at the age of 3, there's always your first memory. They say, what's your first childhood memory? Is that morning when I woke up and found myself in a town where I had no idea where I was. It was so white, so foggy. I remember like yesterday, I was in my diaper and like a little singlet, and I was asking my grandma, like, where's my dad? Unbeknownst to me that my parents were going through a divorce and that had happened, and my mom literally had to flee with us overnight because the custody battle meant we had to stay with my dad, and my mom had to come back to the southwest. My dad was from the center province in Yaoundé. So I think my grandma didn't have the right words to tell me what had happened. I just remember having so many hugs, hot chocolate, and crying. And throughout that day, it was so bad. And I'll look out and I'll get really scared, like, where am I? This is not right. So I think that was a really pivotal point where my heart broke in a child's kind of way, but I didn't have the words to express it. And that's where I started with my experiences. Then I started forming a level of resilience and understanding of my environment, because I was looking at, where is my mom? Who do I turn to? How do I start, cajoling my grandma to like me more than my sister? It's almost like you're playing catch up with your own life, but you're just a child in a child's body. So I think all of that experience immediately formed this strong person in a child's body, but I was just a child. So I was becoming really tougher outer skin. I had to really understand that, okay, you have no mother now, you have no father, you have to just fend for yourself with your grandma. And my grandmom did such an incredible job raising us. I give her that every day, every time. Like, if you go on my social platforms, I'm always talking about my grandmother.
Yes.
So I think that's where I gained a lot of who I am. My grandma's background, really quickly, she's raised in Sierra Leone, part Sierra Leone parents, raised by British colonial people, like she lived with white British people all her life till she was an adult woman, moved to Nigeria, married my grandpa, came back to Cameroon. So you can see all that diversity in one person. So she was quite British. She raised us. She would not speak Pidgin. She spoke English. She spoke Creole. So we just grew up in this flair, like a plethora of, language, dialects, confidence. And one thing she had was that level of creativity where she wanted her children in every church concert.
Oh.
So she would take us to church, she would put us in drama clubs, she took us to Boya University. At that time, it was like a cultural center, right? She took us to UB where we would do performances to people who would come from the UK. Like we had white people like sitting in the front row of the amphitheater. Oh. We would do dances, we would do ballet. That was my grandmother. So I think that formed in me this whole person who I try to navigate things using that level of creativity, that level of confidence. And deep down inside me, even when I'm scared, you might not be able to tell because I just know that I will get out of this situation. So I think that whole childhood kind of formed the resilient person you see today, the confident person that you see today, the creative person that you see today. And I think to an extent, I'll give this to my grandmother, the very confident communicator that you see today. It's all based on that, foundation I got.
I love how you were able to pick some of the things that, and remember them so clearly.
Yeah.
Tell me, were you an only child, first child, last child, middle child?
I am a third child, but at the time I was a last child. So my mom had a son after she left my dad. I was the last child then. And I have a sibling, I have an elder sister and an elder brother. And I think based on our dynamic as a family, I come across like the eldest because I'm just overimposing sometimes. My sister is very demure, like she's very calm, very laid back, but very protective. And my brother is just a dad. He's just playing his role as a big brother all the time from when he was very young. So I guess it's been me.
Looking at your background, is there anything you would have loved to change?
So the way I see life, that's a really good question. The way I see life is not about what I'd love to change. It's about the learnings. So the learnings that I take from the experiences that I've had. Mm-hmm. So it's more around something happening. What did I get out of that incident? And how can that make me a better person? Mm-hmm. There's quite a lot of things that I have experienced in life. So from my childhood to my, teenage years to adulthood, university and all of that. But I think without going through all those experiences, I would not be here today. So there's nothing I want to change. I feel like everything has it's like streams going into an ocean, right? It's all culminated into me being this person and learning to be this person that I am. So I'd rather say life has taught me a lot of things that have made me who I am rather than things that I want to go back and change.
I like how simple you just put that, and it makes me think about, some of the times when I have regretted some of the things that I've done or experiences that has shaped me. But looking at how easy you've made that sound, I think I need to reconsider how I want to think about some of the past experiences that have really impacted me as an adult today. But let's talk about your degree. You have a degree in journalism and mass communication, but you've excelled so well in data transformation. Mm-hmm. How would you say these two fuel each other?
Interestingly, there's always a silver lining. So just pivoting back to that conversation about things I'd like to change. Before I understood who I am becoming as a person, career-wise, on the motherhood front, in life generally, I would have said, I would have loved to just stay and be a communicator. I would have loved to just be a journalist, like report the news, be on TV, be glam. That was the vision when I did journalism and mass communication. However, back to the point and the present, I think I haven't lost anything. Being a journalism graduate actually was what was required for me to be where I am today.
Okay.
Yeah. So data and communication are basically intertwined in such a way that you will not even imagine. I started as a journalism and mass comm student, and partially throughout my 3 year at UB, I worked in the lab with Dr. Eno Tanjong, may he so rest in peace. So what we did, we collected data, communications data at the time, and just did like coding. We're coding comms data in the lab using SPSS, a very basic analytical program where we didn't pay attention, we didn't even know what it meant. You just know you had to take the data, you had to put it in here, you had to code it in such a way. It had no meaning to us doing it at that time. But it was quite, remember, let's pin that point. It was very important. So further down the line, I graduated as a journalism graduate, and I'm like, what do I do with my time? Found myself working for a British publishing company here in Cameroon, Macmillan Publishers. I don't know how much you know about them.
Yeah.
So that also was a chance meeting. I had an internship to do in Limbe. Then I met someone working at Macmillan and said, well, we need an intern. So I left one internship to go to Macmillan because it was closer to my aunt's office. Worked in Macmillan for like 2 months, and the editor at the time was a white lady, British lady, who was going back to the UK. She was leaving the job. And so she turned around and said to the director at Macmillan, she said, I cannot vouch for anyone else but Dorothy. Wow. She's doing this job, and she will do it incredibly well. Now, the previous editor was a Cameroonian lady too, who had gone to the UK to meet her spouse. So all cards were just aligning for me at the time. And I was still in the university, like I haven't even graduated. Oh. So this is me partially graduated, ending up with a job as an editor for Cameroon. And with all the accolades that came at the time, it was like the best thing that ever happened. So in my mind, I saw myself ending in publishing. Now, we're not even talking data. At least I'm using comms to do publishing, to do writing. So I stayed with publishing for a while. Then I went to the UK and realized, okay, I'm doing a master's in marketing. Publishing is nowhere near what I used to do. So how do I pivot? Doing my research in the master's, I realized there's so much data I had to analyze. So this is me analyzing data for my master's program, and I'm going, but I did this at UB. You remember that thing I said? That thing we did in the lab with Eno Tanjong now comes full circle. So I'm looking at the data and going, okay, I see where this whole thing comes together. Still then, I didn't understand the impact of data. I was doing it as a prerequisite to finish my degree. And then one day, a chance meeting again, and this is now telling you how collaboration and human relationships are important. I meet this Cameroonian guy by chance on the street, and he's like, oh, we got talking. And I said, where do you work? Because I worked at the time at a customer service tech place in the UK. Corey's Comet.
Corey's, yeah.
That's another story of depression. I left my job in Cameroon as an editorial manager. I used to travel to the UK for training. I had a service car. Like, I had my life set. Then I go to the UK and I'm working in a shop where someone's asking me, why do I buy this TV? In my head, I'm going, just buy the TV, it's your money. Why are you asking me? Like, I haven't even eaten since morning. So I struggled for a while, but back to where I'm at. This guy tells me that he is working for a charity and he has a remuneration payment of £12 an hour. My mind blew up. £12 an hour. And I'm in the shop, they're paying me £7 an hour for people to tell me to push a fridge to their car. I didn't go back to my job. The next day, I called that guy. I said, where are you? I'm coming with you to this job that you do to earn £12 an hour. Because he said they were looking for more people. Guess what this job turned out to be? No. We were chugging buckets on the street. Do you know the fundraisers were asking people for money? We're chugging buckets like, hi, can you donate for this charity? And I said, this is what I'm paying £12 for. I said, give me 2 buckets. I'm chugging this bucket all my life, like £12 an hour. I made so much money from that job. Somehow, we are chugging buckets. People are giving us money. We're walking on the streets in London, walking on the streets in other towns, right? And then one day, my inquisitive nature kicks in. And I go, but we're chugging buckets, and people are writing their names on pieces of papers, their phone numbers. What do we do with this information? And the guy went, well, we just leave it in the office, and the data admins will put it in a computer. And my mind went, what? So there are people who earn more than me putting this in the computer when I have worked with data. right? So I said, okay, my journey on the streets have ended, and that's how. I was just flipping. Like, as soon as I get the next idea, I'm gone. I took myself to an agency and said, I'm collecting a lot of data, but I would like to now start recording it on the computer. So can you give me a data admin job? That's how I got into data. But I guess you can tell I'm just trying to thread this whole story.
Oh, yes.
Communicating at every stage of my life with people, with the stuff that I do, introspecting, asking myself questions, journeying myself into a place I think I want to be really helped me to have clarity as to where I was going. And that's how I ended up in the office as a data administrator. And that's where my journey started. So I don't know if your next question will cue me into the next phase, but
no. But my next question, I know you've explained that so well.
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, you started a career or a journey in data, but somewhere in between, you still found time to make movies, entertainment, talk shows. Was this something you would rather have done? Was the data part not born out of the more money you had to make? Would you have rather, let me make movies and make more money? Or which one do you think would have been suitable for, or ideal? Which one do you think you would have loved to do most?
That's a hard choice. So as I get to know data even more, as I get to work with data, I don't know how many people here work with data. If you work with data for a long time, you realize that you fall in love. You fall in love with data. It's so difficult, but it's extremely loving, because guess what? You realize that you're so important to every single dynamic that happens in a business. Like, literally, you hold the mantle for what would happen next. You're telling the exec team, you're telling your teammates, you're telling the business what's happening, how it's going to happen, what's going to happen next. You're looking at trends, you're looking at patterns, you're telling a story. And it's such an exciting world, Ade. It's difficult, but it's exciting. It's difficult because you have to learn so many new coding languages at the time when there was no low code as we have now with AI. That time we were coding SQL. You write codes to write query languages. You query databases to give you, dashboards. You were writing codes. But the good thing is when the data comes out, you have something that you're presenting back, and it's such a beautiful story to tell, especially when it's good. So I'll take an example. When I started, I used to work for a fundraising organization, and every Monday I would go into a board meeting. In that board meeting, I will have to tell them how they've performed in the prior weeks and in the prior quarter. So our dashboards were divided by current, weekly, quarterly, monthly, yearly, 6 monthly. You tell them what the performances look like. And you go in there sometimes and go, fantastic, our campaign is doing really well. We've seen this number of click-throughs, we've seen this number of open rates, we've seen this number of unsubscribes. However, when this campaign launched, we had this amount of donations come through. However, now we are seeing a peak in the donations. And when you're telling that story, you see how the board is buzzed. They are happy for the results they see. Flip the script. If you're telling them that we've done so bad, nothing's working, like the campaign has flopped, no one's going to the website, so many abandoned baskets, you're telling them all this story, you realize that there is like a confrontational time where everyone starts going, oh, the data might not be correct, your reports are not correct. Yeah, they'll challenge you in the boardroom, and you have to now defend yourself. And that's the part about data I didn't like, because it's out of my control whether the data is correct or incorrect, because it starts with whoever inputs that data. It starts from the source. So if you input £5 instead of 500, when I report that we've made £5 this week, it's not my fault. I'm telling you what's on the system. And that's why data hygiene and data cleanliness is so important. That storyline, telling that story. Coming back to your point about data or movie, you can tell that life in the UK is boring.
I know.
I promise you, you cannot live in that place without having extracurricular activities. And the only thing I could come back onto was my creativity and the background in front of the camera, lights, action. What could I do? And I'm a very, very creative person in the sense that I love to write my own stories. So I have so many scripts that I've just sat down and thought, oh, I could write this movie, and I write and pack to one side. So I had so many movies that I had written. But you remember I had a blog?
Yes. The one you said a lot of things about your grandma.
Yeah. So I started a blog also called Perfect Escape, just to help me with, expressing that whole creative side that I didn't know where to go to with. And I wrote so many stories, but then decided to turn some of those stories into films. So that's how I kept myself entertained. The movie side just kept me going. It was my extracurricular activity. I enjoyed every bit except the expenditure. You cannot shoot films in the UK. Like literally, you broke the bank or you robbed the bank. To hire a venue like this for one day is like £2,000, £3,000. And imagine you're shooting for a month. That eats into your entire, your savings. So I will not do that again without thinking properly and doing my research. If I can shoot a movie in Cameroon, of course I will. But in the UK, it's not something I'd want to just jump into like I did before. But movies, yes, extracurricular activities. Data, that's my 9 to 5. That's the thing I like doing as a job. And it complements each other so nicely, especially with the communications in between. The storytelling is in the movie, the storytelling is in the data.
The storytelling is in the movie and the storytelling is in the data. Now let's talk about, when you look at data and you look at the world that we live in today, what are some of the problems at the top of your head you think it can solve?
Data, I think, is a lot of people kind of tend to feel that data is just numbers, right? It's almost like when you say data, people just see numbers on a spreadsheet, they see dashboards. They forget that data is qualitative and quantitative. It's also just a narrative. Like, I can spend a whole day analyzing metadata. I can spend a whole day analyzing just words. So there are software applications like Sprout where you would go, I can use Sprout to say, I want to hear what everyone's talking about Faberfreak. It's going to spit out a significant amount of words that people have said about you, right? And I'm going to break down those words to positive and negative. And I can take all the negative words and give it back for you to give it to your PR and go fix this. Whatever this is, fix it. If someone said something bad about Faberfreak, can you say something good? Can you go back and respond? If it's good, I can say, Ade, a lot of good things are coming through. Let's use these good things to expand your business. Now, you can, in so many ways, use data to resolve a problem. However, you can use data to capture missed opportunities. There's so many missed opportunities, especially in Cameroon, that people are not optimizing. So it's not just about fixing problems. I think data is the future, is the be-all, end-all, in the sense that if you tap into your data, right, you will not only be resolving a current issue right here and now, you could forecast for the next 5 years where you're going to be.
Yes.
So that's the trick that people are missing.
I mean, that's a beautiful revelation. And to be honest, before today, I spent about 1 hour with Dorothy in the car. I was, she just kept talking. I was looking at her like, So I had all these aha moments. And each time she was, Adi, let me go. I said, no. And I'll ask another question. And she would just tell me the things that my business needs at this time. And I was very intrigued. And I told her, you see, this is something I would like you to help me with, because we run our businesses in Africa and we truly underestimate just how much influence data can have on the things that we do. And with that conversation, it has set what I have to do differently and accelerated that process. Because just 2 days ago, I brought in a young lady in and I said, passed her to my chief accountant and head of accounts. I said, work with her to ensure that you have all this. So it's really important for us as people, as a community, to understand the part that data plays. A few months ago, you were celebrated as one of the top women in tech in the UK. And my question to you is, do you think celebrating women in tech is commended, or do you think it is overrated?
Absolutely not. If I wake up every morning celebrating women, I am literally going to be a head girl for that. We do literally women We do extremely too much. We wear too many hats in our lives. And I'm saying this from a perspective where I have been snowed under by my own life, but I have to wake up every morning, wear my work face, because in the UK there's no, my cousins died. Nobody even knows what you're saying. So I wear my work face and go to work because we have to be where we have to be to put food on the table. Women should be celebrated. It's not overrated at all, especially women who are making the effort to be productive in so many ways outside other visibility. So if it's not just what you do inside your house, it's going out, facing the world, facing the challenges that come, facing different dynamics of people, facing different dynamics of human interaction. There's aggressive behavior, there's passive aggressive. We are in a place where there's racism, there's misogynism, there's misogynoir, which I was talking to Ade about.
And I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, you'd see a situation where because you are a woman, people just undermine you. But guess what? It's double whammy when you're a woman and a black woman. That's when misogynoir comes in. It's terrible. Like literally you'll be with a white lady, your white colleague, and you're doing the same thing, but they are rated so highly and you're not even mentioned. So all of these challenges, we go out and face them every day. But I want to put a stick on this one too and say, yes, sometimes we're overrated.
Aha.
No, I'll play devil's advocate. We're overrated.
Okay.
And that's the thing I talked to you about, experiences versus buzzwords.
Yeah.
I have met people in this country who talk the talk. But underneath the talking, I figure out that there's no grit. So if you are a woman in tech, please don't just talk the talk. Do the work as well. Because what's going to happen is, at some point in time, the lead is gonna be lifted, and then the world can tell that there's no grit underneath. A lot of people are buzzword specialists. Like they'll be like, "Oh, this thing, data governance." I walked into an office. I told you this story, and it's hilarious. Yes. Someone brought me to their office to help them with their data. I said, "When you come to Cameroon, I'd love to see you. Like, I could give you this little contract to just help advise on our data. Would like to have a proper data strategy because you do this thing. You're like a CRM specialist." I said, fine. I went to the office, sat down, and they brought their data. I was excited, really excited. And I punched on the spreadsheet, and my mouth just dropped. I was like, what's going on? There's 2 lines. There's names, and then there's phone numbers, and that's their data. And I'm like, okay, where is the other part? Well, like, where's the other part of this data? Because if you ask me to tell you anything about these 2 lines, there's nothing I'll say. But if I told you how this person sold me this piece of work, I was coming in knowing, oh my God, we're going to be doing incredible work here. But that's to say, it's not their fault. It's also based on the environment that we find ourselves in. In Cameroon, there's a significant data debt. Data debt is a point where in no way, shape or form data is optimized. The governance is poor, the processes are poor, the systems are lacking, the softwares are lacking. Training and upskilling young people about a specific thing is also not really there. So you find yourself in a significant debt and you're just barely managing what you have, which is not next to nothing. Because to be candid, if you take a 2-line spreadsheet and ask me to analyze, what do you want from me? Because what I'd like to be telling you, let's say you have your business, for example, Ade, I'd want to be telling you that this is the sort of markets that you should be going into. Based on your last campaign, you did this, you tackled this audience, you tackled that audience, you raised this amount of money, you raised this amount of awareness, brand impact went off the roof. Use all that information and tackle that next business. And we create a pitch based on that data for you to tackle your next, not 2 lines of data, name and address. What am I doing? I can geographically tell you that all your clients live in Douala. Is that information new? It's not new news. So yes, sometimes we're overrated, sometimes. But overall, women should be celebrated regardless.
Now, when you're sharing your experience about, looking at a piece of work and thinking, oh, I came in anticipating and looking forward to having a good relationship with the data that I'll find, and you only found out that this is not what you expected. Can you share with us some of your achievements, one or two that really impacted your life and that really proved to you that, I can pat myself on the back and say, Dorothy, you've done it. I know I follow you on LinkedIn. I see some of the things that you've achieved, but for our podcast sake, I would like you to explain a little bit more about this.
I have so many interesting stories that literally I leveraged or pivoted me into where I am. But I'd also like to just reiterate that a lot of people still think this whole Dorothy is an enigma. Because I know people who've said to my husband, can you get her to get a job or get something? Like, she's so active on social media, what does she do? And in my head, I'm going, poor me. Like, is it that bad? I'm just trying to survive here. Like, everyone needs a social life. When you meet someone who's a social monster like I am, I need a place where I can, like, really let my hair down. And I think it's on my platform. In the UK, you don't go to people's houses like, I'm going to visit this friend. We don't have meetings like Jangi, and we don't have those things. So you close work, you're going home, you shut the door, and boredom will kill you. You look at your husband like, who is this man? You look at your kids like, whose children are these? It gets to that point where you just have to switch everything off and go on social media and have a good laugh. So I think essentially my career is an enigma to so many people. Like, what does she even do? But I'll take a couple of stories and tell you guys that it's not been all smooth sailing. It's been quite tough. So at the peak of my career, that was 2024. So 7 years back, when I joined a top disability organization in the UK, because my career really full-blown started within the charity sector. So I worked with top charities. I'll mention a few, but I'll keep the story anonymous. Liberty Human Rights, Arthritis Research, Leonard Cheshire, British Heart Foundation, a lot of those big charities. Like, literally, I was working in data for them. So at the peak of my career, I had joined this particular organization as the head of CRM and data. So head of CRM and data, they brought me in to basically transform the CRM stack of the organization. So CRM are customer relationship databases that we use for the company. And I was working with Microsoft at the time to get this done. So the entire transformation was relying on me, basically, getting all our requirements. I mean, all 9 years, I don't want to go into the very, very techie, but you'd understand the entire business model. You get into all the requirements for what the company actually wants you to do. And when I say requirements, it's like we have 133 offices. It's almost like you're not leaving anyone out. You're interviewing every single person, especially head of departments, to make sure that, one, you know where their data is coming from, where it's going, how it should be structured, what do they want in the end, what their reports would look like. Literally, you're going through all of that list, and it could take you 9 months just to do that before you even start the transformation. So this happened, and I had to recruit at the same time. I usually recruit my own team. So I'll get like a project manager, a data analyst, data administrators, because I need people to key the data in, ETL specialists, people who tell you and help you to flow the data between systems, manage all your API connections and stuff. I recruited a few of those, and then a data migration specialist. So the migration specialist is key because they lift the data, shift it into another system. So that piece of work happened. It took us about 9 months to get the preliminary done and then the actual work itself done. On the back of that, I built the first ever customer insight reporting platform with Microsoft for that company. So it was so effectively done that Microsoft used me as the case study.
Wow.
When that happened, I said, jackpot. That's all I needed. I just needed Microsoft to acknowledge that this is fantastic work. So Microsoft did that. It was all over the place. My company was buzzing. We were really, really happy, not knowing that a few months down the line, a major shakeup would happen in the business. So redundancies kicked in, and a lot of people were let go. When I say a lot, I mean a lot of people. I had a team of 7. I was left with 1 person out of 7 people. So I had to make a drastic decision around, do I stay and work and take the job of 7 more people by myself, plus the one person left who is just the ETL specialist. So it means I will be a data administrator, a data analyst, like literally my mind was, I could not sleep. It was a tough time for me. And I had to make the decision to take a voluntary redundancy package. So I made myself redundant because I had to make a choice, my mental health or myself. And I said I was going to leave the company. But that was, you know, when you've built a baby, you have a baby and you want to see it grow, but then you're like, at some point, I have to give the baby away. That's how I felt. I was devastated. So when my letter of redundancy went to my director, he was inconsolable. It's like, Dorothy, you cannot leave the system. But I had to make a choice between making the organization happy for me being there and, you know, following through with the new system we implemented, or my mental health, because I realized it was literally depleted. Wow. That's when I tested anxiety for the first time. I would sleep and I wake up like in a panic because my brain just would not shut down. I'm thinking of all these things I will be doing only myself, and then my panic moments would just kick in and I'm like, no, I can't do this. I'll try and go to sleep. I had to say, doctor, I'm like, I'm having really bad anxiety. What is this? And he said, we might give you sleeping pills. We could help you. We could and you know me and medication. I'm like, nah, I'll do my research. I rely on data very heavily. So I went out doing my research and finding other ways to calm my anxiety down. And there was quite a lot of herbal remedies and stuff like that. But that's to digress. I started taking other herbal remedies to help me just calm that anxiety. Went through that moment, and it happened I had 2 significant big offers again a few months later. So I took a redundancy. I was paid for the redundancy, but then 2 months later I found a job. And I had to make a choice. But I think that was really pivotal to tell you that you can be succeeding and failing at the same time. Mm-hmm. And if you're not careful, you can drown in that at that point. So a lot of the times you hear, oh, someone won an Emmy Award, but they found them in the bathtub dead from an overdose. You're like, at the happiest point in your life you die? Yes, you can. Because there's so much pressure that comes with some certain level of responsibility. And just looking after your own self, it's tough. It's so bleak, especially when you get to a point in your corporate career where all decisions are on your shoulder. You're like managing people whose lives depend on you. You're managing decisions that could be drastic for a business. And you know for sure that the repercussions will be yours to be responsible for. You don't sleep at night. The head that wears the crown.
Uneasy, yeah. Thinking about this experience, and you know, it reminds me of really leaving a young baby, and going away, because after having put all this in place, this was a moment where you have to, you know, just enjoy the fruits of your labor, and then pap, you're gone.
Yeah.
Now, I know you do have a young family, and I know you work in top leadership position. Your job requires you to travel around and to different things, and you sometimes stay very late in the office. How do you strike a balance? You know, so this is an analogy between the baby that you're living, which is your work, and your actual family.
Babies.
You know, so how do you strike a balance? You know, between these 2 things. You know, that high demanding work and this high demanding baby with your kids being young that I know, and your husband, and you know.
That's a soft spot, Ade, and I think you resonate because we had our babies around the same time. We're looking for birth partners. Do you want to have a baby? I'm coming with you. You want to have a baby? Let's do it. So that's what we did. So our kids would kind of be similar ages. But let me not fool you guys. It's not easy. If anyone says they have the answer, I'm just going to be like, oh, really? Thanks. I take my bag and leave. Like, no one has the answer. It's not easy. So at some point, you have to make a decision to be in an incredibly, I mean, this is for people who have partners, right? You have your partner, you have your husband. For single mothers, I have said they just need a one-way ticket to heaven.
Yes.
There should not be any judgment for single mothers. Like, you get to the gate of heaven, you show your single mother badge, and the angels just let you in, because I seriously, I can't even compare. But I think striking a balance in a sense that you have a partner who is very understanding is really important. A person who understands that your place is not in the kitchen or in the other room is very important. You, as an individual, you have ambitions, you have aspirations, you have to evolve and develop as a person. So even when you have your baby so young, you still need to work. Tech is so fast-paced. Every day you don't look at something happening in tech, you're like 10 steps back. Yeah. So imagine when I have my babies, I'm home for like 2-3 months. My mom comes over and I'm like, here you go, have your child. I'm gone back to work. So 3 months, 4 months at the max, I'm always back at work, trying to play catch up. It doesn't end. There are times when I've missed some incredible moments with my kids, like they have school plays, they have dramas, they have like important things that I only find out when I have come back. And I have kind of learned to not hold myself hostage or the guilt to kill me. Because to be fair, they also look up to me as an example. I've got 2 incredible daughters, Chloe and Tia.
It's a published author.
Tia is 7. She published her first book at 7, and she's just about publishing the second one now. Chloe, incredible, and just very level-headed. And then I have a son, Preston, in the middle, who is like a mixture of myself and my husband, so he's chaos. But we love his chaotic behavior because he makes the house really excited. So what I'm also trying to say to them as a mother is, look up to me. I don't rely solely on being here. I rely on going out there to fight so you guys can have the future that you need. And if I am their example, then I think they will also learn to fend for themselves, not just be like, oh, my mom used to be a housewife, she did nothing and blah, 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 because kids misinterpret situations. And I've also said, even if you're not working at a job, you're home, you're a stay-at-home mom, do something creative. So I teach them a lot of the stuff that I do. Teach them how to use Canva, teach them how to do their homework on creative templates, just bring them into your world so there's always an alternative for them to fall back onto if they can't find careers at a certain point in their lives. There's no template, there's no formula, there's no framework to be a mom and a full-time career person. There's just nothing. Do what works for you, Ade. It's almost like when you have a baby and someone comes to tell you, oh, give your baby food at 3, every 3 hours, give your baby breast milk. No. As your child cries, you cradle that child. It's your motherly instinct that kicks in. The same way it is raising children in a very cutthroat corporate life. You're like, I have a sense now, I have an intuition that my children need me today. So I might take this day off. You take the day off. And if you have a really good leader as well, I've been blessed with some incredible directors who are like people that I look up to and who manage me. We take that time off. Like, Dorothy, just work from home. It's fine. You know, do what you've got to do. Likewise, there's been other leaders that have managed me who are like, sorry.
Come here now.
I had to take a picture of my child's vomit to send. No, seriously, I cannot forget that lady. She traumatized me. I had to take a picture of my child's vomit in a taxi and say to her, I was dropping her off at nursery. She's thrown up all over me. I am sorry, I can't make it into work. And she's like, what do you mean? I took a picture of the vomit, everything. I'm like, there you go.
This is what I mean.
And I took it with a timestamp. That's how bad that relationship was with that person. I took a timestamp, a date stamp, just so she knows exactly that it's not a joke. I have a sick child. So to be candid, just you follow your instincts, but also pray that you have the right mentors, the right leaders, and they'll support you through. Yeah.
I mean, I love how you've brought in your kids into your creative space. And I can see that from Chloe, you know, the way she manages herself on the camera. I can see that from Thea in her writings. But I also want to ask you, your movie, Curtain, was one of the most anticipated movies in the UK, but yet it failed badly. How did this failure make you feel?
That's the last thing I really ever want to talk about, Ade. That's the last thing I wanted. I've never opened up about that film publicly. You know that, right?
I'd like to know.
I've never. Yeah. I don't even. Do you know when you have lost words to describe the worst thing that's ever happened to you career-wise, it's the movie curtains.
Means if it's okay if you want to talk about it, but
I can't try, and I can't try because time's passed. With time passing, you get a lot of inspiration, and you get a lot of retrospective take around why things happen the way they happen. And I believe in destiny a lot. I believe in things happening for a reason. I believe that there is perspective, there is purpose, there is a drive behind who each and every one of us is. And we should believe strongly in that. Follow your gut instinct, right? And I'm going to say something that's quite off, and not everybody believes in this, but I have gifts that I don't even tap into. Mm-hmm. I could see things happen, and I'm like, why did I not listen to this particular thing? Why? So my movie Curtain flopped because I just didn't listen to my gut. It flopped so badly, and we all witnessed it happen. So this movie was shot, and like you said, rightly said, incredible cast. I got like the best of actors from. I went to film school. Rain Dance Film School in the UK for over a year. I did all the courses that were required to get things done. But that's why there's a TikTok trend going, knowledge is power, and the lady's like, sees him.